here, and I think that's what happened. I'm gonna have to maybe go inside to finish this. Really sorry, guys. That was a bummer. I'm just gonna go inside, I guess. And because it's 96 degrees in the shade, real hot in the shade. 96 degrees in the shade, real hot in the shade. Oh, that's a bummer. That is a bummer. Yeah, I know, dude. Alright, I'm just gonna put this down here. Keep blabbing so you guys know. I'm just relocating to somewhere a little bit cooler. You're going in? Go ahead. Alright, take two. Too hot to stream. Too hot to stream. Tell your friends. We're still going. Yeah, I don't know if it's too hot. I mean, look at me. I'm cool, but it's hot. My phone was at 56%. Shooty pie. Oh my goodness, what a bummer. You know what? Probably we're just getting to the good part. So they are like, thwarting with it. Because I have the finest of iPhone 14s. And I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, man. I don't know. All right. Well, good boy. I know. We're going to keep reading. I'm just going to wait, maybe. I don't know. Jeremy, if you could share this, maybe the people that were watching will come back. I don't know. I feel horrible. That was really getting juicy. No, because, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, not that I'm anyone important, but, you start saying enough things that are detrimental to what they want you to believe. Maybe there's a flag that went off and maybe they just shut me down. All I saw was I looked up and it was my home screen, so I don't fully know what happened, but there's my dog's asshole. All right, keeping it classy here, reading with Heron. All right, you're good. Oh my goodness. All right, well, regardless, I am grateful that you guys made it back. Anyways, yeah, he's a classy dude. I'm gonna let her rip. I'm gonna edit it later. I'm gonna call it part 4, 2.0, getting out of the heat or something. I don't know, and then we'll just take off from there. Yeah, I don't know. That's a bummer. Where was I? Jeez. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I guess we got something to do while we wait for more people. Dogs! Sorry. Come on. Stella, Dookie, come on. Never get a road in your yard. It sucks so bad. Put up with this crap all day long. Come on. Get in the yard. Come on. Wow. All right. It is not happening here. Stella. Come. Duke. Fuck. Yeah, he's super great at ignoring me, so he's exactly where we left off. Dookie, come. Come on. Fucking arseholes. Dookie! Okay, dog for sale. You little shit. Get in the house. God. All right. All right, we've gained back 2 people. That's like 20% of the previous audience, but you know what? You're a bad boy. All right, that's it. And now we're up to 3. Good enough for me. Um, this is going to be the slightly cooler option for reading. As much as I like to be outside, I think it's too hot, and my phone overheated. So I don't know. I'm not gonna win a award for best live video, anyways. So people want to follow along, you can just fast forward through all this tripe. Okay, where was I? Yes, I was in a mocking voice asking the questions that the globies ask. If the earth is flat, then what's underneath it? Why do the sun and stars move as they do? Why don't planes fly off the edge? These questions are endless and expected. Indoctrination frames flat Earth within a spinning globe model. It is as if rejecting the story means you must provide a fully formed replacement, a theory peer-reviewed and TED Talk ready by lunch. But among true seekers, disproving a claim requires no immediate replacement, no obligation to educate or defend once falsehood is revealed. What matters is this: committed true earthers root their claims in measured, repeatable science, observed facts, predictions, and proof. They measure lakes, oceans, and the ground beneath feet, not the heavens above. The earth beneath us is flat and level. It supports homes, runways, bridges, lighthouses. It is the world we touch, chart, and navigate. We do not need to look up to know what's down. This is the geometry taught by Euclid, ancient and sacred. Spherical geometry describes shapes on a curved surface. Planar geometry describes shapes and angles on a flat surface, like a sheet of paper. Of course, perfect flatness in an absolute sense is not what is being claimed. Mountains rise, valleys curve paths. Valleys carve paths. Peaks reach skyward, plateaus stand proud. Beneath, caves whisper secrets deep in the earth's heart. This still, subterranean, electromagnetic plane forms the earth's tapestry, a non-rotating world which in mystery and grace. Earth is lumpy. But when this topic arises, eyes turn skyward to justify what lies beneath feet. Celestial dances are invoked as if they decide Earth's form. They do not. This is a shield, a reflex to protect beliefs from doubt. And yes, I share your concern for this Earth, the pollution, the litter, the discarded plastic choking life. I hold the oceans, coral reefs, and fragile ecosystems in my heart. Rising carbon and destruction weigh heavily. The Earth is our only home. It deserves reverence and care. I too once believed the spinning globe story without question. I made art and meaning on that foundation. I longed for astronauts to return with proof. That was my world, woven with unquestioned stories etched deep. There was a time I wished to step beyond all I thought I knew into new worlds. But when you measure land, water, and horizon, what you see, test, and feel, you find not a wobbling globe, but a vast, level plain stretching endlessly. There are truths so ancient, so rooted in the very ground beneath our feet, that to remember them is to remember who and where we truly are. Don't you do it! Get, Dookie! Get! Stop it. Sorry, guys. Yeek. Lay down. Holy cow. Go lay down. Down. Good boy. You ever feel like maybe something's trying to like get you to like not do something? All right, whatever. No clue where I left off. There are truths so ancient, so rooted in the very ground beneath our feet, that to remember them is to remember who and where we truly are. But they gave you a parody so loud, so absurd, that truth itself became unthinkable. Until this truth is overturned by direct, repeatable measurement, not by fisheye lenses, CGI graphics, and cartoons, or an appointed authority, the burden of proof stays right where it belongs, on those who claim a spinning, wobbling, tilting water ball. This is why respectful dialogue is so important. Before dismissing or demanding proof, seek to understand the view presented. Those who walk this path do not believe flat in ignorance. A two-dimensional flat surface and a cosmic floating space pizza is far from a stationary, non-rotating, topographical, horizontal, extended level plane. It is not belief, but knowing. Trust me, bro, there is no debate. It has been measured. In that instant, I remembered the maps, the old maps, the ones I trusted without question, the ones that hung on my classroom walls, that lay folded in dusty atlases, flickering in documentaries. They told me the world was known, measured, named, and tamed. I always looked, but never really looked, not closely, because once I did, when I held those maps up to the light and started comparing and scrutinizing the cartography of ancient old world renderings to modern day diagrams, I began to see the fictions of geography. The maps held secrets in their seams, errors disguised as truth, territories erased, boundaries stretched or shrunk, a delicate choreography of exaggeration and absence. Margins of missing memory, empty and erroneous man-made mosaics of the world, hand-drawn lies of empire, sketched parchment prisons of deception, sanctioned grids of illusionary borders of control, and paid-for fraud stitched into every seam. Islands appearing and disappearing, vanishing where legends swore they once stood. Land masses stretched unnaturally, distorted like reflections in a warped mirror, not because the land was that shape, but because it had to fit within the neat, artificial grid of longitude and latitude lines drawn by hands I would never meet. History was a hollow tale built on omission. And when I looked back, I found a man, a map maker named Alex Gleason, standing there, somewhat of an obscure historical figure. Records indicate that he was born in 1827 and died in 1909, living to the age of 82. A civil engineer, best known for publishing his 1890, where did I go? 1893 book, Is the Bible from Heaven? Is the Earth a Globe? And for creating the Gleason's new standard map of the world in 1892. For over a century, many globe proponents, whether through purposeful deception, convenient ignorance, or blind repetition, have insisted that Alex Gleason's famous azimuthal equidistant map was nothing more than a globe projection cunningly unwrapped into a two-dimensional circle, with the so-called fantasy continent of Antarctica snipped and stretched around like its edges like a wall of ice. Alex Gleason was certainly no globe zealot. He was a vehement, unapologetic flat earther, and he made it crystal clear in his own words. His map was not a projection of the heliocentric model. It was a careful, deliberate rendering of geocentric flat plane with a small local sun and moon hovering above it. Gleason was not guessing. He was anything but confused. He was deliberate, precise. He dismantled the heliocentric model using direct observations, practical mechanics, and what he called real science. Correct. We are on page 102. On his map, the local sun makes a 24-hour circuit over the Earth. On his map, the local sun makes a 24-hour circuit over the Earth, weaving in and out of the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, creating the solstices, equinoxes, and seasons without needing to hurl the planet through infinite space at impossible speeds. In fact, Alex Gleason literally drew and demonstrated the sun's path in the bottom of the left and right corners of his map and described its precise motion in exhaustive detail from pages 317 to 329 of his book. I've made some amendments to my map. Anyways, this is probably the most compelling part for me. And distracted again. He explained how the sun moves concentrically closer to the center in summer and farther out in winter. How day and night are dictated by proximity and angle, not a spinning globe. How can this be a projection of the heliocentric model? It is not. They told us the Earth was a sphere, a perfect creation, save for small imperfection they could barely bring themselves to mention. A world with a circumference of 24,901 miles around its equator and a diameter stretching 7,917 miles across from one end to the other. But not quite perfect. Never quite perfect. Take, for example, the international date line, one of the great riddles of our age, a curious boundary where time itself bends and 3 hours seem to vanish into thin air. If a full solar circuit is 24 hours, why then do maps only account for 21? What is hidden in that gap, as though sections of the world have been folded away like origami, concealing whole portions of the Creator's design? On the Gleason's map, the sun moves 15 degrees per hour, each section representing an hour of time. 3 missing hours means 3 whole slices of the circle are absent, equal to vast tracts of land. Even the cartographers admit their art is a distortion, each projection stretching or compressing, shaping our vision while hiding the truth. Both the circular Gleason map and the square Mercator fail, as though a vital piece has been deliberately removed. One begins to suspect that modern maps have been engineered to blind us, to erase entire continents from memory, to hide the very land of Jesus spoken of in the old maps. Luke 10:21 resounds here. I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. The wise of this world mock the notion, asking, why would they lie about that? While the babes in spirit see plainly that the missing hours are tethered to missing land. You guys, you know what, guys? Honestly, I'm gonna go back and read that again, because that international timeline has always kind of messed with my head, and I want to read it again, so bear with me. Okay, so one begins to suspect that modern maps have been engineered to blind us, to erase entire continents from memory, to hide the very land of Jesus spoken of in the old maps. Okay, Luke 10:21. Why would they lie about that? Yeah. Okay, even official publications confess the sleight of hand, admitting that at the poles, time zones do not exist, or rather, that they all converge at once, and explorers must simply invent the time by which they live. Such admissions hint at deeper mysteries, for the poles are not mere barren wastelands, but thresholds into concealed realms. If you cut a slice of a circle, it fits neatly on a sphere, which makes clear why the globe was invented. Yet, what if the slice itself represents a continent we were never told about? What if the very camp of the saints from Revelation lies there, the place where believers from across the earth would gather and where the adversary's armies would surround, only to be consumed by fire from heaven? Such thoughts stir the heart, for they whisper of extra land, extra time, and yes, extraterrestrial beings, not as space travelers, but as dwellers of the hidden terra firma beyond the known world. Santero, welcome. Even our language betrays the deception. 7 continents are claimed, yet Europe is counted separately, though it is plainly part of Asia, while Antarctica, a ring of ice, is falsely portrayed as a continent. Images of it are fabricated, mere computer renderings designed to fortify the illusion. The compass itself, so deeply embedded in Freemasonic symbols, hints at this hidden order, pointing always to the north, the true center of the world. On a flat earth map, the North Pole becomes the hub of all travel, the natural pit stop between continents, impossible to ignore. Perhaps that is why flights avoid the polar regions, and why Google quietly erased Hyperborea, the Eden of the ancients. I love this map. And yes, missing islands. Remember Friesland? Nope. But it was there. That was Scotland. Friesland. Nova Zembla. Pygmy Island. Alright, focus. I got some distraction problems here today. You know, that's part of the wild nature of having a book read to you. Oh, I did it again. Right. Google quietly erased Hyperborea, the Eden of the ancients, from the maps. Accounts persist of travelers glimpsing land where only water should be, visions that align with the testimony of the ancients who recorded a very different Earth. They claim the Earth was an oblate spheroid bulging ever so slightly at its waistline, a modest distortion born, they say, from the planet's relentless spin. A shape deviating from a perfect sphere by only 1/3 of 1%. A flaw so small, they told us, it hardly matters. A difference of just 13 miles between the radius at the equator and the radius from center to pole. 3,963 miles here, 3,950 miles there. In most tellings, this is the world we were handed. The measurements fixed, the equations settled, the borders drawn, and the maps hung on walls like commandments. A world where this minor imperfection was enough to defend a model, yet too insignificant to question it. But when you begin to press your fingers against the seams of that story, when you weigh their numbers against what the eye sees and the waters reveal, the elegant perfection of the globe starts to bleed away, eventually uncovering how certain continents are swollen and others shrunken, how some places are made to look insignificant, others disproportionately vast, time zones missing, entire regions omitted as though they never existed, ancient names replaced with new ones, old symbols erased, sacred sites renamed. It was a challenge to the empire of lies, and like so many other truths, it was buried beneath layers of ridicule and silence. I guess maybe science too, but anyways. The modern maps are a cage, a geometry of control, instruments of limitation for the sanctioned layout of the world. And then I realized this was not a mistake. It was by design. A forgery pretending to be fact, a fiction masquerading as certainty. History stopped from ever proceeding forward, and so it is this model we will hold them to. This is the creed they swear by, and this is the model that will betray them. It is staggering how easily this has gone unnoticed, even by those of us who question. Perhaps missing 3 hours a day does more than hide land. It could even give the sense of time itself being hastened. As Scripture foretold, and so we must not grow weary, but press deeper, letting the Spirit of truth teach us. The deceptions of men are elaborate, yet the design of God is perfect. If more land awaits us beyond the veil of distortion, then perhaps so too does the place of gathering, the true inheritance of his children. Jesus, help us to seek diligently, for in the end it is not space that surrounds us, but waters above and below. And it is the Father who reveals his mysteries, not to the proud, but to the babes who look with open eyes and hearts. Hallelujah. Alex Gleason, a name left out of classrooms, absent from science books, deliberately brushed aside. Once I saw all that unfolded clearly before my eyes, once I accepted that the map I was handed was a deliberate illusion, something in me snapped. I had spent my whole life navigating a body that would not follow the rules, a world that treated me like a side story, a burden, an afterthought. I was already dragging enough chains made of flesh and metal. I was not about to carry the weight of someone else's lies. If this world was built to cage me, it was going to watch me tear down the walls, one brutal, unapologetic truth at a time. So by this point, if you're still with me, I imagine I've either struck a nerve and unsettled something you once held firm, or I've sparked a curiosity that keeps your hands wrapped around these pages. Either way, press on. Don't pull back. Don't let the friction of new information cause you to close. Instead, open yourself through the resistance. Every one of us was handed a script to help us make sense of this place, a script written long before we arrived. It came as an education, a mobile that hung and dangled above our heads as infants, one of the very first models of reality ever shown to us before we had the capacity to question or consent. But it wasn't our vision. It wasn't our experience. It was someone else's framework, created not to free the mind, but to capture it, to shape it, contain it, and often quietly bind it. And if none of this is new to you, then congratulations. You likely pushed through your own pressure and broke through your own cognitive dissonance. Go forth and help others break free. Some of us did not drift off in class because we were bored. We drifted because something inside us sensed something was off, and we could already see the outline of the lie. The moment you begin to trust that inner sense is the moment the horizon begins to rise beneath you. I was a smart kid. Did you know that? When in public school, I was in the gifted class. And you know what my two least favorite subjects were? History and geography. Chapter 16. We're going to do this, guys. We're going to do 3 chapters minimum today, whether dogs or neighbors don't like it or not. Chasing horizons. Freedom begins where the earth lays flat and the soul refuses to bend. That's beautiful. The things humans do for freedom truly amaze me. Some risk everything for a cause, others for a fleeting breath free from control. For many, freedom is not a preference, but a hill worth dying on. I remember the scene in Braveheart when William Wallace roars, "Freedom!" before his execution. That primal spark, the fierce will to live on one's own terms, is rare and precious. I bet you remember that line. I bet you just now said it to yourself too. If you're alone right now, go ahead and yell it out loud. I dare you. Howl it at the walls. I'm not going to do it. I'll give you time if you want to do that. I already had... No. I already had enough limits to navigate. Living with a degenerative neuromuscular disease and relying on wheelchairs meant facing visible, tangible barriers every day. I didn't need invisible ones too, drawn by other people's lies and systems designed to keep me small. Yet I realized it wasn't just me. Life taught me I am not my name, my age, my labels, my preferences, my judgment, or my disease. I am more than the opinions or stories I tell myself. So important. As some great spiritual teacher uttered, I am not a human being having a spiritual experience. I am a spirit having a human experience. This life is a brutal and beautiful test to awaken the heart of humankind. Too many systems were built to steal our freedom. It's our job to wake up, question the narratives sold as truth, and decide how we express our awakening. Well, I had just crossed my 29th birthday and took a long, hard look in the mirror. I'm still here, I thought. I'm still breathing. The doctors were wrong. How could they say such a thing when I defied every odd? For years, I carried that weight and pushed back against that prophecy. Standing at the edge of 30, I took an inventory of every hard moment, every rejection, every disappointment, betrayals, losses, heartbreaks, times I didn't make the team, wasn't chosen, or believed I wasn't enough. I remembered being cut from sports teams, losing jobs, failed relationships, feeling unworthy of someone else's league. I kept a record of those things because they mattered. They shaped me, but they didn't define me. In my teens, after 2 heart surgeries, I found a new obsession: wheelchair athletics. I chased the dream of becoming a Paralympian in wheelchair racing. I trained relentlessly, racing 10Ks, marathons, and international events. I assume intentionally. But politics crept in. Just when I earned my athlete's card and was on track for Beijing 2008, A panel of strangers stripped me of my spot. I had flown across the world to qualify, pushing my body to the limit. In Japan, just kilometers from the finish line, my chair suddenly veered, sending me crashing hard onto the asphalt. My hands were raw and bleeding. The chair twisted, but I pushed through the pain to the finish line. It wasn't fast, it certainly wasn't graceful, but I finished. That grit earned me my card, but it wasn't enough. Weeks later, in the Netherlands, after appeals and fees, the answer remained no. I was replaced, cast aside, cancelled, forgotten. I wrote in my journal that night, broken but not beaten, promising myself this rejection wouldn't be the final word on my story. I surrendered my Paralympic dream and asked, is this even my path? Spirit answered with a promise that something greater awaited. Not medals, not titles, but sovereignty and freedom. So I made a new plan, and I kept it guarded like a flame. On my 30th birthday, the aged doctors said I'd never see. I left the West Coast and began pushing my wheelchair across Canada. Coast to coast, a distance of roughly 7,500 kilometers. Get. Go lay down. Go on. Roughly 7,500 kilometers, or 4,660 miles. It was just me, my small humble team, and the open road. I called it the Marathon of Freedom. The journey was surprisingly flat across vast distances. Every highway that seemed endless, every hill, every horizon, every street lamp that disappeared into the vanishing point. I kept pushing on, even when everything in me wanted to quit. Like an alchemist, I took my pain, anger, and rejection and transmuted it into spiritual fortitude. In every sense, I was ready for the rubber to hit the road. Along the way, I conducted my own experiments, tracking speeds and elevation, distance, and the flatness of the land beneath my wheels. Survey data and my observations showed remarkable levelness over immense stretches, such as throughout the Alberta and Saskatchewan prairies. Buildings, roads, and all railways along the route were built on foundations that assumed flatness, not curvature. The sun and I moved in harmony from morning until night. It seemed to follow me as much as I followed it, casting light on a world that was steady and true. Upon the face of the earth I pushed, and the ground beneath whispered its true form, steady and unyielding, honest as the dawn. With every turn of my wheels, the world unfolded in quiet clarity, revealing a steadfast plane that held me firm and carried me onward. This journey wasn't just about geography. It was about breaking up with the allegiances that kept me small. The world above and beneath me, the open road, all felt like exciting mysteries primed, ready to explore. What was the official version of reality? Worth it. It came at the cost of my spirit. Every mile I pushed was a declaration that I am free. I traded disappointment for miles and heartbreak for hills. Every kilometer, every aching push felt like shedding another lie I'd been told. Just like every hero's journey, the road was brutal. There were holdups, injuries, breakdowns, weather, flat tires, lost funding, and worst of all, the devastating loss of my father mid-journey. It tested me on a soul level. I felt like everything was trying to break me, but it didn't. I didn't stop, because this was my race, my ritual of becoming. And maybe it was never about the land. Maybe it was about the territories of my mind, about running boundary scripts and smashing the blueprints of belief that kept me contained. So you guys like sports? I'm really sorry. Damn it. Ugh. In a strange and beautiful twist, I gave thanks to those doctors who claimed to know my fate, because without their prediction, I might never have discovered just how unstoppable I truly am. They unknowingly gave me the one thing I needed most, a reason to fight. Every day since, I've made it my mission to tear down their words, to turn their limitations into fuel. What started as a desperate need to debunk and prove them wrong transformed into a life of defying limits, chasing freedom, and becoming living proof that no one can decide your story but you. I underwent a demolition of the old Sonny, only to resurrect something fiercer, freer, more aligned with what my soul had already known. If that doesn't move you, I think we have all felt that. I don't even know if I can go on. I'm going to take a minute here. I'm going to just collect it for a minute. That's so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Sonny, for writing this. You put so much of who you are into this book. And your essence is wonderful. And I am really grateful to know you all and to be here and to be alive to read this book. Because there are times where, you know, life is tough. Life is brutal and beautiful, as so aptly stated. But I personally believe we're all here for greatness, so. There's no crying. There's no crying in story reading or baseball. Chapter 17. Whispering Ancestors. This is so good. She didn't answer my questions. She dismantled the seeker seeking them. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. The voice returned, not to wound, but to beckon. Tell me, who did you become after you tasted this freedom and saw the world as it is? I had pushed my body and its physical capacities to its limits. I already left behind the comforts of mainstream religion and New Age platitudes and started to feel like thin wallpaper over a wall ready to collapse. The news on TV became a hypnotic ritual, repeating the same old sorcery day after day. Almost every movie I watched carried the same quiet poison, propaganda dressed up as entertainment. The subtle conditioning baked into the stories I grew up on shaped my ideas about the world without asking permission. When I finally noticed, it changed how I looked at everything, not just movies, but people, politics, and the narratives we're told to believe. I wasn't interested in secondhand wisdom anymore. I wasn't looking for someone else's version of the truth. Not another polished theory or guru's riddles meant to confuse or distract. It left a bitter taste I couldn't stomach. Eventually, I grew tired of it, tired of being passively entertained, and walked away in search of something real. I wanted direct experience, the kind the mystics and sages dare to articulate with words but fail to capture. Something lasting, something permanent. I wanted to see it with my own eyes, feel it in every fiber of my being, something that could not be imitated or taken away. What I craved was raw and unfiltered, undeniable truth. I didn't want to hear about the light. I wanted to stand in it. I wanted to know for myself. That's how I ended up in the Amazon, or rather, the Amazon ended up in me. Ah, the plants, the voice said knowingly. I noted. I nodded. Yeah, the master teachers. Ayahuasca, the grandmother, a thick, foul-tasting brew made from jungle vines and leaves that, for reasons no modern scientist can adequately explain, when combined and ingested, unlocks something ancient in the human psyche. I sat in circles under thatched roofs in noble silence, deep in a metaphorical jungle, surrounded by strangers who had all come chasing something, healing, answers, oblivion. The shamans sang Icaros songs older than the countries we came from, and the candlelight flickered just like this one now. And then it began. What did you see? The plant medicine was both fierce and beautiful, a storm disguised as a cup of an ancient brew. Ayahuasca did not ask permission. It entered like a force of nature, an ancient clearing the way for the empty stomach and steady breath, because the moment it hit, I knew I was about to be unmade. It began as a subtle hum, a flicker at the edges of my awareness, rising slowly like an airplane's ascent, the pressure building in my chest. Then came the nausea, thick and punishing, like a knot of snakes writhing in my gut, an electric anxiety that felt older than the names of the gods. Buckets lined up like confessionals, and into them we spilled our sins and secrets, all our cellular level baggage. I puked up grief I did not know I had been carrying, memories I hadn't visited in years. I could feel it leaving me, not metaphorically, but quite literally, as though every wretch peeled another layer off of the false self, freeing my soul. Then the visions and hallucinations arrived. A terror surfaced, primal and ancient, like a beast shaking off sleep. It was the sensation of Velcro ripping me away from the world I once called real. Amid the madness, it was my breath that kept me tethered, offering flickers of courage when everything else unraveled. I returned to my breath like a pilgrim, to a sacred temple, each inhale a prayer, each exhale a quiet offering to the storm within. In that simple rhythm, courage was reborn. The medicine reminded me that the breath is the bridge between worlds, the delicate thread connecting spirit to body, the eternal to the fleeting. Was this ego death? If it was ruthless. Every emotion I had buried erupted in a violent flood. 1,000 feelings crashed down in waves too big to contain, violent and tender in equal measure. I wept unashamed. I laughed like a madman. I shook. I dissolved. My hands blurred. My legs vanished. My name, my story, the armor I had built around my identity crumbled and blew away like dust in the wind. I left my body, or it left me. I floated above, watching the room pulse and shift, faces melting into ancient masks of grief and ecstasy. The others around me were no longer strangers. Their stories, their sorrow, their joy became mine. Our souls braided together in the space between worlds, each of us rising and falling within our own ceremony, connected by something far older than language. The medicine was no mere magical mystery tour. It was a sentient force, a dyadic, jungle-born spirit, ancient, wild, and utterly unconcerned with my comfort. The purging would not cease until I surrendered to everything. The shamans shook their rattles and sang their jungle chants. The room became a living organism. Tobacco smoke rose like spectral hands, carrying prayers into unseen realms. The chanting felt like ancient keys, unlocking hidden doors inside me. I sensed the ancestors arrive, present among us, watchful and steady. I was an innocent, naive explorer in a land I could not have imagined existed. A daring, wide open psychonaut, vulnerable to psychic ambush, but guarded by the invocations of spirit. Angels and ancestors called into that space. They came, they sat with us, healed us, whispered things that cannot be spoken in this world. They came without judgment, offering what was needed. Wordless and stern, their faces half shadow, half light, they cut into me, healed me, and in an instant vanished as the medicine ebbed, leaving behind a scar stitched with wisdom like the most delicate of surgeries. I did not know where I was, yet it all felt so familiar. The realm I entered was unlike anything I could imagine. It was quiet, expansive, eternal. An ethereal chamber, radiating benevolence and ancient love. A sacred place beyond story and time, where the soul remembers its original shape. When the visions and smoke had retreated into the shadows of the night, and as the light of the morning sun began to break, the room returned to itself, and I was no longer the same man. Nobody passes through unchanged, said the voice. Agreed. That ceremony rattled me to my core. It etched itself into the architecture of my memory and forever encoded in the deep root of my being. This was no escape. It was a reckoning, a merciless, loving, beautiful dismantling of everything I thought I was. I carried with me a simple knowing. I was not broken. I was not lost. I had never been alone. This life is a classroom. It is short, precious, and impossibly fragile. The people we love, the dramas we cling to, the titles we hoard, it is all theater. A play put on for our growth. We come here to forget, to suffer, to stumble, because it teaches us in ways perfection never could. I saw how tightly I had held on to things, ideas, self-grudges, labels like special needs, disabled, unlucky, and outsider. Ayahuasca stripped them from me like old wallpaper. Layer by painful layer, she showed me that none of those things were mine. My essence existed beyond the body, beyond the name, beyond the globe-shaped earth I had been sold. And did she answer your questions? I grinned. Some. Others she laughed at. I saw that I am in this world, but not of this world. And whether flat or round or some kind of simulation inside the mind of a dreaming God, it is fleeting and impermanent. We come here to be cracked open. Death is not an end, but a continuation, a returning. What surprised me was how little the shape of the earth mattered once you were outside of it. And yet you returned. I had to, I said. This is the classroom. The real work isn't out there in the stars or even in the jungle. It is here, in the conversations you are afraid to have, in the truths you hesitate to speak, in the way you treat the stranger, the lover, the one who disagrees. I came back lighter in spirit, not because the world made more sense, but because it didn't need to. And you kept asking. Always. Because the search never ends. The questions evolve. The myths collapse, and new ones rise to take their place. But through it all, the only thing that matters is whether you have the courage to look, to ask, to puke up what no longer serves you, and to let yourself be completely undone. The plants left a lasting imprint that endures to this day. Don't follow the guru. You are the guru. I mean, like, like, I hope I'm doing this book justice. It's moving me so deeply. I'm getting choked up. Kind of want a whiskey. Maybe a cigar. I don't know, man. Have any of you guys ever done ayahuasca? It's on my to-do list. I mean, I I am no stranger to psychedelics. I will tell you that. And I think when we engage in ritual with those medicines that the earth gives us, that we all, I mean, if you've done mushrooms at a minimum, you know what it's like. And, I mean, I've never eaten enough to puke off them, but I I have gone places far away on LSD and psilocybin. Um, I think that's so poignant because there are places, you know, if this world physically that we see and exist in is a representation of frequency and vibration that we create with our minds, then the places we go in our minds are just as real. They just have different boundaries or cartography, as it were. Um, I would, I've, I have friends who have done ayahuasca, and I obviously any adventurer, any rebel, any soul adventurer wants to try to do some, but I'm also very guarded when there's few people that I would probably engage in that ceremony with. But Sonny, I'll go back to the jungle with you, brother. I'll rock some plant medicine in your presence humbly. That is something I would definitely do. Um, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Either I have absolutely nothing left to strip off, or I am so deluded that it's going to be a doozy. I don't know. It could go either way at this point. Should we do one more? We're on page 115, and we have reached chapter 18, the litmus test of the soul. Let's do one more. Why not? It's Monday. What the hell else are we doing? I learned that truth never minded my questions, but lies did. I wasn't punished for asking. I was punished for asking out loud. See, before all this, before the experiments, the axis of evil, the ancient maps and firmaments, I cared a lot about. I cared a lot about what people thought of me, about being liked, about being respected. I clung to the image of being wise, gentle, spiritually evolved, the kind of person who radiates kindness and floats above the messy business of having opinions. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but oh my gosh. What is with today? What is with today? I'm gonna pursue, okay? Because I know these people. I don't want to laugh at him, and we've all had rough goes, but I'm telling you, man, there's something about today. I'm gonna vape again because I'm kind of blown away. Can you guys hear that? Can you guys hear? Yeah, that's my neighbor losing his fucking shit over something. It's not funny. It's not. I laugh when things are uncomfortable, I guess. All right. I'm going to pursue, and I'm going to try my best to overpower the sound of that. The kind of person who radiates kindness and floats above the messy business of having opinions. I worked overtime to make sure everyone saw me as mature, zen as hell, and so open-minded that I had no real stance on anything. I built an identity on it without even realizing it. That is how it works. You do not wake up every morning and declare, "Today I will crave validation." It sneaks in. It hides in the way you phrase your sentences, the topics you avoid at dinner parties, the harmless jokes you let slide. It lives in the silence you keep when something feels wrong, but you do not want to be that person who stirs the pot. You wanted to belong. The voice asked softly. "Didn't we all?" I answered. For years, I chased approval from friends, teachers, spiritual mentors, even faceless strangers online. I measured my worth by how palatable my thoughts were, by how many likes, nods, and smiles they earned me. I did not lie, but I curated. I smoothed the edges. I left certain questions unasked just to avoid the look. You know the one, that sharp glance of disbelief or disdain. The polite pause, the subtle withdrawal of connection, the split-second shiver in the air that says, "You have gone too far." Think about the globe belief. People build their entire lives around it. They write songs about it, start businesses because of it, create art and stories that celebrate it. Entire spiritual philosophies sit neatly on top of it like furniture in a staged model home. Tug on that one piece, and it's not just science that shakes. It is identity. It is belonging. It is the story people tell themselves about where they are and what that means. But then came flat Earth. It was never just a quirky fringe belief. It was a litmus test for the soul, a scalpel that cut straight through people's masks, through my own. Once I started talking about it, even gently, even casually, the shift was immediate. And this is when the real storm began. People laughed. They mocked. They said things like, "So, you think knowing the earth is flat makes you a better person?" Because I paid so much money for my education. That's not in the book, but that usually follows it. They sneered that asking these kinds of questions proved I had lost my mind. They did not simply disagree. They took it as a personal insult. Their faces hardened, their voices sharpened, and they told me with complete conviction that I had thrown away my morality, my dignity, and my intelligence, that I had abandoned reason and joined the lowest ranks of society, the uneducated, the stupid, the ignorant, and the dangerous. They called it a cult. They said I had been brainwashed. They claimed I had joined the flat earth cult of idiots. They said it without hesitation, with the confidence of someone who had already judged me and found me guilty. They hammered that point relentlessly, without mercy. They made me pay for leaving the globe belief, for rejecting the scientific consensus that is built on layers of assumptions, theories, and even more assumptions. The irony is that we have not traded one belief for another. Shoot the messenger. We have not swapped the globe for some new doctrine that demands blind faith. Knowing is not believing. The Gnostics understood this. Knowing is a direct recognition, an unshakable awareness. It is not an idea you defend. It is a truth you carry. Try explaining that to someone who has already decided you are garbage for walking away from the consensus. Their eyes glaze over as they rehearse the lines that they have been taught to say. They do not hear you because they do not want to. When you find your voice and start speaking up for what matters, the knives come out, not just from strangers, but from people you once loved. They drive home their accusations as if punishing you will erase your questions. They cling to their story not because it is proven, but because it is safe. If you are no longer inside it, you become the threat. You learn quickly who your friends are when you suggest the world might not be the wet spinning space marble we were trained to imagine. Conversations cool, jokes lose their warmth, invitations fade like morning mist. Those who once called me friend quietly retreat. I let them. Not everything and not everyone is meant to follow you into the next chapter. Some truths you carry alone, and that can be its own kind of peace. But something beautiful happened. Your soul ignited, came the voice. Yeah, I smiled. It did. Not because I felt special. People love to believe that is the motive. That tired cliche, oh, he thinks he cracked the code, outsmarted the scientists, walking around feeling chosen. They imagine some smug grin, a secret handshake with the universe, a backstage pass to ancient wisdom everyone else missed. But the truth is, none of that lived in me. I did not feel like a guru or a prophet or the hero of my own movie. I did not feel superior or chosen. I felt awake. I felt pissed off. And honestly, I felt tired. Tired of pretending not to notice. Tired of agreeing to things I did not believe. Tired and a little embarrassed that it had taken me so long to say it out loud. What struck me most was not how right I thought I was. It was how much important knowledge the so-called experts left on the cutting room floor. How little they questioned, how quick they were to mock and ridicule instead of investigate. Truth does not fear investigation. It does not flinch. It does not censor. It does not need the armor of shame or sarcasm. Truth invites scrutiny because it knows it will survive. They defended the myth, the voice said quietly. Tooth and nail, I replied. So I stopped caring, not from bitterness or rebellion, but because I realized the people I spent my life trying to impress had no clue what they were talking about when it came to the fundamental nature of our existence. If they were wrong about something as big as where we are, then their opinion about who I am suddenly mattered a whole lot less. And your world changed again. I nodded. It got quieter, but clearer. I began speaking my truth, not for applause or recognition, not to argue or be the loudest voice in the room, and not because I thought I could change anyone's mind. I spoke because it was time. Because the words had lived in my bones long enough, and keeping silent would have been betrayal. I spoke to name the things most people stepped around, to gently and steadily say, there, right there, that does not add up. Not out of anger or the need to be right, but because I was done pretending it made sense. Some people stayed, a few brave souls who did not flinch when conversations turned uncomfortable or easy answers ran out. Others left, and honestly, good riddance. Because what is left, you begin to realize is real. Not necessarily people who agree with you or an echo chamber of approval, but people who are honest. People who value truth over comfort. People willing to sit in the unknown without fixing it, labeling it, or running away. That, I have learned, is rarer than agreement. And the first time someone accused you of joining the flat earth cult, the voice inquired, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how quickly it flew out of their mouth, like they had been rehearsing it for the moment I stepped out of line. It was not a question or curiosity. It was a verdict. In that instant, I went from friend, coworker, and fellow seeker to a brainwashed idiot in their eyes. They did not want to know what I had seen or why I was questioning. They only needed to put me in a box so they could close the lid and walk away. Cult is the easiest box, the fastest way to protect themselves from the uncomfortable thought that maybe, just maybe, they had been inside a belief system their entire lives without ever calling it one. But what does it really mean to be in a cult? Does changing your mind based on new evidence make you part of one? Could simply asking questions really strip away morality, dignity, and intelligence? Or is this a fear of difference? This need to brand and reject, a reflection of something far deeper? How many times have I clung to ideas because I was afraid to lose approval? For years, I chased approval. But then, evidence presented itself, and I stepped away from the globe belief I had once embraced. I followed my own intuition instead. Never once did I think I had joined a cult or followed a leader. Changing your mind when faced with new evidence, isn't that a sign of intelligence? The dictionary says, a cult system a cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed toward a particular figure or object. Yet, all I saw were people inside a much larger cult, where science was their savior and a globe being objectified. I noticed personalities and traits that did not align with virtue or nobility, while the true earthers I came to recognize as real seekers aligned themselves with better versions of who they were. I did not sense darkness, twisted energy, condescension. Condensation. You got condensation in your brain, Heron. Twisted energy, condescension, vulgarity, or patronizing superiority being directed from true earthers. To this day, I see all of that vitriol coming from the other side. Globe zealots and defenders often sound like they are shouting into a mirror, projecting trauma-based mind control, calling names, and hurling insults like, you're a retarded man-child who never moved out of your parents' basement and never fully got educated. Flat Earth researchers, by contrast, verify and present facts for themselves, have the difficult conversations, and invite others into the dialogue with courage, not dark energy. Why does it anger them so much? The voice wondered. Why do they accuse you of losing your mind, your morality, your dignity? They fear what they do not understand, I replied. They cling to a story that keeps them safe, even if it is built on shaky foundations. It's like a bad dream. Critics call Flat Earth a religious cult without a savior. They claim there is no way to grow closer to Jesus or God through it, even though the oldest history book offers the clearest clues about where we are. They get angry when you say the Bible is a flat earth clue book. They claim the over 120 scriptures supporting a geocentric design are manufactured, heavily edited. Brainwashing and mind control. They say the Bible should not be taken literally or metaphorically, calling it first line of indoctrinated literature written to control society. But what about your experience? The voice pressed. None of that has been my truth. I have seen no sign of cults led by charismatic grifters preying on the vulnerable or naive. Instead, this knowledge has brought me into the same room as truth, the Creator, and my own fragile life and body. It has brought me nobility, the kind that demands treating others with respect and kindness. This is the mirror opposite of what critics claim. The lies they spew are the very truth they need to face. Everyone I speak with who has arrived at this awareness calls it a divine gift, one that makes them better people. Those who deny it, I find, have wandered so far from God that their words and actions have become spiritually bankrupt. Is that what truth is? The voice asked. A feeling? A look? Something you know in your heart? Truth is a feeling, but not a flimsy one. It meets you eye to eye and verifies itself by passing through your heart before it ever reaches your mind. It never appoints you as the supreme judge of reality, and it never reduces you beneath anyone else. Truth does not demand cult membership, blind loyalty, or the surrender of your sovereignty. Community is beautiful, even necessary, but no human leader deserves the authority that belongs only to God. This is why truth-seeking must always be measured against Scripture, the one foundation that has endured every empire, every ideology, and every scientific trend. Without that anchor, a person will drift endlessly, tossed between persuasive voices, clever rhetoric, and fashionable beliefs. Untethered from Scripture, one becomes easy prey for the new priesthoods of our age, especially scientism, the belief system that disguises itself as neutrality while demanding obedience without question. Seek truth with your heart open, your senses awake, and your feet planted in Scripture, or you will boil in the sauce of every passing doctrine and end up serving something that was never meant to rule you. In what ways has this truth changed you? The voice inquired. The flat earth truth has strengthened my clarity, discernment, and personal agency. I will not be deceived. I will not be taken advantage of. I will not be scammed. I will not comply with tyranny. I do not consent to my identification becoming digitalized, and I most certainly will not let anyone inject strange and foreign substances under my skin. For this alone, I give thanks and praise to Jesus. May everyone find this strength in the armor of God. I do not see those who reject this truth as enemies, I said. They are brothers and sisters still lost in the battle for their souls. There are entities existing solely to harvest power from us and steal energy in ways that strike the subconscious mind unnoticed. These people in power, lurking behind the curtain, the controllers of this realm, they are the true enemy. I prefer to call them parasites myself, because ain't nobody controlling in here anymore. I'm moving right along. They manifest, the voice continued, spreading messages of fear and control through Hollywood movies, symbols, and mainstream media, flashing that unassuming globe aimed straight at the minds of the undiscerning. The candle burned low. The room shifted. Or maybe it was me. It stopped being about maps and models long ago. Now it was about bravery, the weight of speaking what no one wanted to hear, and the price you pay for opening your eyes. That voice, my inconvenient, relentless voice, was not going anywhere. It had waited for me to stop lying to myself. So if you have not yet found a flat earth friend, or if you once encountered one but dismissed their words, I invite you now to open your eyes and heart fully. These voices do not seek to mislead or steal from you. They are seekers who walk the ancient path of inquiry with courage and honesty. They ask not for blind belief in anything, but for direct experience and personal knowing. This is the essence of true inquiry, not accepting handed down stories, but piercing through illusion by seeing, testing, and feeling for yourself. This journey is not about the shape of the earth. It is about uncovering the deeper layers of a greater, more pervasive lie, woven into the human story we have been told. It is an invitation to awaken, to confront what is hidden, and to carry the light of genuine truth into the vast unknown. Some of us weren't made to follow a map because we are the coordinates. If you are not willing to investigate for yourself, the voice said softly, then that is your litmus test. A mirror showing exactly who you are and where you stand. And here I was. Good, the voice murmured. Welcome home. I feel like this is a fabulous point to take a break, and I don't know if I feel like reading more today. I'll just start another video because probably something's going to happen and I'm going to have to anyways, so or not. Wow. And that's always the thing, you know. It is. We are not the cult, you know. The globe earth is a church for idiots. Sorry, not sorry. You know, and then the atheists, I don't get it. You renounce your creator, right? You think that you came from the Big Bang, and you know, but you weren't there, but you believe it. You know, you can't see in your day-to-day life evidence of the Big Bang. You can hear stories about why things are the way they are, but you can't touch it. But you believe in it. You believe in rocks and light and pressure and gas, but you don't, but you renounce a creator. It's the same thing. Only one is fear-based and the other is heart songs. Thank you for joining me. This was, I guess, part 2 of part 4. Oh, Nate, you're like hardcore. You're in like Flynn on everyone I do. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you. And to everyone else, even if you're just popping in or checking it out, or you know, things happen for divine reasons. And Mr. Bird, I thank you for this book, brother. Oh, Sonny, there you are. Thank you. This is a life-changing event for me, and I'm already standing on a flat plane. I didn't, you know, this isn't rocking my foundations on any level. This is confirming them to some level, and you know, inspiring further thought on the subject, away from what is, you know, being forced down our necks since childhood. So thank you, Jeremy, for sending me this book. Thank you, Sonny, for writing it. I feel like I know you, brother. What a journey. Today was crazy. I had some collapses and heat issues and whatnot, but we did it. We got to chapter 19. Up next, water. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. All right. Well, it's time to go jump in the river because I also am having some temperature issues. Look at this. They walk up the street and then they jump in and then they float back down. And that is what I'm gonna do. So, in gratitude, I thank you all for joining me. I think I'm redundant. I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to do this, and thank you all from right in here. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the next one. We'll see you for chapter 19 and water. I'll catch you on the flip side. Be well and be merry.